evening, fellow morons. How are we all doing on this lovely Monday night?
Good.
Okay, thanks.
I'm laughing there because as soon as we said hello to everybody there, Hunter turned his camera off, so that's it.
I do apologise.
He's
It
gave,
keeps vibrating when I'm on it. I'm not another mouth of Daniel, and I completely forgot about it until I got the notification when we're going live.
well, that will be some confusion for those that are watching live, but thank you very much to everyone who has joined in to listen to us tonight. Hunter has reappeared back on the screen.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us. You will see that there is a new face on the screen today. We are really grateful to be joined by Ben from FunnyFilmDiary on Instagram, who we've been speaking to quite a lot over the last, I don't know how long, few months anyway. Ben, welcome in. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. How's things with you?
All good, thank you very much. I was just thinking, it's wonderful in the sort of times we want variety of voices that you've got this sort of strong Scottish accents with film criticism. It's such a very sort of London-centric idea, but as a man from Windsor coming along to bring his voice in, I think that's really welcome, no doubt. That's exactly what we all want. So it's ruining our way for the English to the Scottish way. So, but it's a pleasure to be here, guys. It's I love the way you guys talk. I think I've listened to quite a few of your shows. And I love the way you criticise, and I think there's brilliant sort of thinking that goes behind it. Your conclusions baffle me sometimes, but that's brilliant. It's a wonderful thing.
Well, we do have really, really broad tastes and varieties of movies that we like. And to be honest, we spend all week arguing with each other about what films we're watching, what we're voting for. We argue on the streams constantly as well, but feel free to plug away to your Instagram account as well. I was having a good look through it recently, and there's a few movies on there one I wanted to ask you about that I've not seen, but it was actually recommended to me last night. A film called, is it Nobody? Is it with the guy from Better Call Saul?
Yes, so this is the film is made by the guy who wrote the original John Wick film. So if you like that, it's very much a spin on that. And it has got Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul as that sort of John Wick character, that sort of the man with a past who's sort of brought back into the fold. It's just great action movie though. If you just want a good, solid, fun time, that's what it is. And a lot less dog peril than John Wick, which I really appreciate as a dog lover. But yeah, definitely check that out. It's on Sky or Now TV if you've got access to that at the moment, or through any other stream online dark web areas, I'm sure. But great fun though. Check it out.
We would never ever watch dodgy streams to catch movies, guys, would we?
Of course not.
Absolutely
Only when you give us links, don't you?
It's only if I get the likes. But no, guys, if you are listening to us live at the moment, we've got 27 people watching you live at the moment, or if you're listening back on Spotify or Amazon, if you pop onto Instagram, you'll find Ben. It's FunnyFilmDiary. You'll see comments, interaction on our account from him as well. You'll see some really good. The way I was just trying to think of, like when I was looking at your account, you give some really sharp and concise bullet points that kind of make sense to the whole movie as well. So I quite like it. It's quite easy to read, and it gives you like an understanding of it. Your scoring, we need to talk about this. You've got some fours and high fours in there for some films that I've never even heard of. So it'll be interesting to see how you score it, because that's a contentious conversation when it comes to our scoring. So let's see if it marries up for this one.
That's no problem. I mean, just to give a brief thing about my Instagram, is partly because I work in the media and I work in television, but I like the, sort of, I felt I need to branch more out to different social medias. And I thought maybe just Instagram, maybe because film blogging, I'm a film nerd as I am. And I thought get into that. And I just wanted to see how really Instagram works, the hashtagging. But then, as time goes on, you kind of get yourself into it in this film community. But the idea is to try and put a humorous little bullet points here and there just to throw in there, because I'm just some wanker on the internet, who gives a shit what I think about certain films in some ways. But as long as I give that bit of fun, that just some way to just bring it out, separate myself up a little bit from these people. So, and why not have a bit of fun and show off your knowledge and blog what you have. And it's great when you look back, you think, oh yeah, I watched that film, that was really good. Or God, did I watch that movie? Then there's that sort of feeling. So it's quite good. It's a great sort of way to blog your life down, really, especially under this sort of lockdown lifestyle where, for myself, God, movie watching just been going through the roof because, well, what else are you going to do, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
can't talk to
fair we're going to go and delve into your knowledge and your thoughts about the first film that you selected for us to review, which is Planet of the Apes, which came out in 1968. An astronaut crew crash lands on a planet in a distant future where intelligent talking apes are the dominant species and humans are oppressed and enslaved. Ben, from Funny Film Diary, take it away.
well, I adore this movie, and so this is going to be a high scorer for me. It's I think it's a sci-fi classic for a reason. Now, for myself, you know, I've rewatched this film obviously this week, but I first saw it about 12 years ago, and so that'll be the second time I ever fully watched the film. My previous experience, probably for the same a lot of you, is The Simpsons with the Planet of the Apes musical. You go, oh, Dr. Zaius is a real character, and then you got that song stuck in your head for the rest of the movie. But I think it's just such a great movie. It's so strange, though. You forget how weird it is. You don't see an ape for the first half an hour of the film. It's just this weird, very odd sort of walking through the desert, and it's very strange pontification from Charlton Heston, who was an interesting casting choice, but I'll get to that in a second. I think it's just got this really, and as you see them walking through this desert and canyons, this sort of very bleak landscape, and we have to pretend we don't know the twist at this point. That's part of the big difficulty with this film, is that we all know the twist. The marketing was terrible for it, because we all know that poster with the Statue of Liberty. But there's this brilliant sort of madness to it and the feeling of it. And Charlton Heston's character just very much philosophizing on the world with this sort of machoism. And then, of course, you meet the apes, and it's sort of quite frightening when you first see them, I believe. Sometimes the makeup could be a bit odd, but this very strange world that you suddenly find yourself thrown into with these sort of strange humans that are, you know, not quite there, mute. They're very sort of stupid, but still quite good looking. The women, they've managed to evolve, no longer have to shave legs by the seams, things. Perfectly straight hair. If you ever go camping with a woman for more than 3 days, the hair just goes pow. But these women just look amazing all the time, and they have lip gloss naturally. So it's not a realistic film. We know that from the get-go, and you know, you're transported to this world, this sort of very strange sort of mixture. So now we know the book that it's originally based on, by a French author, Peter Bouille or something like that you pronounce it, and it's sort of quite futuristic in the way it's looking, but they didn't have the budget for this future landscape of like huge skyscrapers, which in '68 it probably would look pretty shit, to be honest. So they made this sort of very old Stone Age culture. But they're also talking in this very Victorian scientific way of these sort of ideas of DNA and evolution, and how it sort of collides with our own religious ideas and preconceptions, which at the time in the 60s must have been a huge topic. I mean, fortunately now we don't have any clash between religion and science in our politics. We've very much moved on, haven't we? So, you know, this idea of evolution, it's a very strange sort of discussion on it, but you have him fighting against it, and these brilliant characters of Zira and a fiance, I'm guessing, and this sort of fighting against Dr. Zaius is this old school kind of scientific thinking, but what's he all about? And this sort of, you get these little action scenes, how they treat him, how he's trying to communicate when his throat has been shot at the beginning, and you see what happens to the rest of his other colleagues. And I think it's just fantastic, this sort of world building and these very shocking moments, great humour. I mean, yes, some of the downhills is that no one seems to question that they all speak English. Like you think you're an alien planet, monkeys, and you can. I mean, you know, we know why, because, you know, over the thousands of years they would have just kept the same English speaking as we do. Of course, that's how language changes. And all these humans are all Caucasian. That's a bit weird. And then there's also one of the main plot thing I find weird is that because I love this how it's in the 60s, so you had this very sort of the themes and stuff is very sort of war. So World War II wasn't that far away. They were in the midst of Vietnam, and there's a hippie movement of this new world. We hadn't quite traveled into the moon yet, but space travel was a big thing. So all the philosophical implications that could be. But the only problem with the film I find quite weird was this original mission What was that to do? That's my main sort of criticism. They were going to, there's 3 blokes and a woman that we never saw. They're going to travel around, and then they were going to land somewhere and all have sex with the one woman and repopulate the world with that. I don't get it. I mean, this is the hippie age, so, you know, it's all free love and all that, with respect. But I think there's a bit of a, these are scientific people, they should be a bit more smarter than that. But this is, but with that, this is just this sort of free love idea, I guess, coming through in this new world. But I love how Charlton Heston just embodies so much this ideas of this sort of hatred for humanity. This sort of, you know, we're all feeling a bit cynical. I think we've all felt it recently during COVID. We've just been thinking, oh, fucking hell, this planet's doomed. Okay, I'm off on the spaceship. See you later, guys. And I think just truly fantastic the way, you know, they sort of meld those ideas into this character, who was also a great character as well, because he was, you know, I think it's great they had he was clearly a very smart genius engineer, which is, you know, a plus, because I know if I was in this situation, I think I would have just screwed it all up. I don't know if I can really communicate the ideas to the monkeys. Well, I'd call them monkeys for one thing. That would be give me in the Stokes there. But that's how, you know. And then you got this sort of incredible ending of this huge twist. Yes, we all know. Yes, it's been bit up and all that. But that image of the Statue of Liberty, wow, that is so good. So I have huge acclaim, high regards for this film. And I think also the special effects, it kind of, yes, the rubber masks do look a bit silly, especially when they're kissing, the monkeys, the 2 apes were kissing, they're that weird clunk, which was a bit awkward.
If we're going to talk about kissing, why the fuck is Charlton Heston kissing that fucking monkey? Like, was it like a kiss, like a snog? Or was it like you might kiss a dog? You know,
it was a long lingering kiss that caused her fiance. Her fiance started like getting a bit annoyed about it.
What if it's just one of those ones where he's like, "Well, I'm here. Like, why? I'm going to tell my pals that, or tell all these people that I winched a monkey for a different planet." That'd be on. Listen, if I moved to an alien planet and there was females there, why not? In for a penny, in for a pound.
We've all been to Wetherspoons, so why not?
Man.
God, that's what people say when they come up to Scotland. No, but very well put, Ben. It was when you're watching it, you do need to think of it being like back in the 60s when this was filmed, because it's hard not to watch films now and judge the special effects and judge the acting and the fight scenes that are ridiculous. Like everyone's knocked out with the slightest little tap to the forehead or the little punch on the back that everyone seems to die from in movies back in the 60s. Everyone got knocked out from a punch to the back. But I mean, I did enjoy it. I was saying to the other guys earlier in our group chat that we've got there, I was like, the most grumpiest mood I've been in a long time, but then choosing to watch a film that I knew that was dated to an extent. But it was a good movie to watch anyway. But we're going to bring Hunter in to get some more of his thoughts, and I'll jump in between everyone else.
That's fine. So kind of similar to what you were saying there, Kyle. I mean, as we know, for someone who has a abundant love of the MCU and most comic book films, science fiction just doesn't usually do it for me sometimes, and I wasn't, and I think that's why obviously I've never seen any of the newer versions or the updated in the Planet of the Apes series, so I've nothing to compare it with, so I was only taking this at face value for what the first time viewing it today, or the first time I can remember viewing it anyway. I'm not sure if I've partaken at any point in the past, but that aside, there are definitely some good aspects of the film that I do enjoy. I mean, as you said, the first glaring plot hole. I mean, now I don't know what the level of science and sort of universe discovery was back when the film was made, but the fact that, as we know now, that Earth is the only planet kind of within our system that we know has got the gravitational pull that we can breathe without breathing apparatus, and it just happened by chance for travelling so many 100 millions or thousands of years that the one planet they had to land on, they could just walk about as if it was back in 1968 when they eventually left. And obviously, like from knowing at that point, I was like, oh, they're obviously on Earth, and that will be. And I hadn't even noticed the Statue of Liberty on the poster, so kind of seeing it though, I was kind of like, oh, it makes sense, but it kind of guessing it one way without seeing the poster, I get kind of maybe lose the effect. But I know we've kind of commented on the makeup, so I think for visually, I think this is quite well ahead of its time. I mean, it does come out. I don't know maybe if it's just some of the dialect between the characters, as you said, Ping touched on it, Ben. It's very proper and very the proper pronunciation. There's not like a lot of slang. There's not other words. There's nothing. There's not. Everyone just seems to have a sort of. Supposedly, because they are in one region, everyone's a sort of monotonal dialect. Everyone sounds and speaks the same. So again, I did find that a bit weird, but again, some of the visuals I did enjoy. We've watched films that have come out a lot more recently that have had worse special effects and visuals than that. I think some of it is very well done on this. Again, it's just a lot of that's all the stuff that I did like. I know. Also, as well as I say, just because of the science fiction editing for me, I didn't know. I also had heard of the name of Charlton Heston, but I think this is the first film of his that I can remember watching, to my knowledge, that I can't remember anywhere. Unless we've watched something, and again, I'm just hitting you with another lie, which would be a shock.
Well known.
Yeah. But again, that's the worst film that we've watched in here. There's a few things missing that add to my own personal preference, but definitely there's probably exceeded expectations to what I was feeling before I went in to watching it this afternoon.
So a late watching for you as well.
Yeah,
we're getting quite bad at this, Morons, leaving it to the last minute to watch these movies. Got a whole week to do it. We sit and watch other shite the whole way through. Burnsy, you said that you think you'd seen this movie before, or at least seen parts of it, which is first of all blown my mind. That must have been something in your history class at school or something. There's no chance you've picked this film to watch.
History class.
This is a true event.
It was 45, 50 years ago, that's it.
The well-known invasion of the Apes back in 1968.
Oh well, I suppose it's a little bit better than you watching Schindler's List at primary school. Burnsy, let us know your thoughts, mate.
So I think for what I remember, which isn't much of it, I just remembered a wee bit at the start of it, and then it was like maybe 5-10 years ago or something. I watched it, I turned it off because I was just like, nah. And I think when we were doing the voting, it was one of the films that I didn't want us to watch, just because it wasn't going on for what Hunt was saying. The sort of science fiction films aren't really my bag either. But I was like pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed it a lot more than what I thought I was gonna enjoy it. Like it's been touched on before, that it doesn't feel as if the film is made that long ago. Sometimes I'll come in and say about how the fight scenes and that I didn't really enjoy them, or they were a bit sort of, they didn't really make sense, and as you had sort of touched on, I think Ellicoe, but those didn't bother me at all. I think the Charlton Heston was really good in it throughout. It's one of these films that I can see why people would love it. It's just not my preference. I feel like if I was looking for a film to watch, these kind of films wouldn't be something I would pick out. But I thought it was definitely different and interesting. An interesting film to watch. I felt like the interaction with Taylor and Nova, I didn't understand what the point in that was really. It didn't really add anything to the film for me. Like she could have just not been in the film at all, and it wouldn't have made it any better or worse for me. Obviously because she wasn't interacting or whatever. Because she wasn't able to speak, then I didn't think she was giving up. There wasn't much sort of emotion or the way she was acting that really made me think, right, I'm getting what she's thinking. It just seemed a wee bit random to me, but it could have just been him on his own. I think
on a quick note on that, the actress playing it, she was married to the producer, So it was a bit of a, yeah.
That's why she was on it then.
I wanted to find on the whole concept as well, because they did a lot in this movie of establishing the humans to be essentially animals that couldn't really communicate. So, but obviously he's taken her away he wants to have sex with her, doesn't he? That's what he wants to do.
That was a wee bit creepy as well at stages. It was kind of just you didn't even know how she felt. It was just that he was like, I want to have sex with you. And that was the vibes he was given. Like it wasn't even believable. I didn't think that he actually cared about her. Which that may have been the way they were putting it across, or maybe it was just the way I was taking it. I couldn't really figure that out.
It was a bit creepy. It was quite a creepy angle, I thought.
And the other bit, which I thought was just a bit strange. I know obviously Taylor's like hurt from he's got when he can't speak, is actually hurt. It's not just obviously that he just stops talking, but like when he does start talking again, he just starts talking normally. I'm like, could you not? You would think if say I was unable to talk because of an injury, I wouldn't just like one day wake up and just start talking back. But I would usually do. I think there would be some kind of struggles on that. Obviously, he's been struggling for ages that he can't talk, but I thought like that just seemed a bit bizarre. But in terms of the actual film overall, it's like going into it, I was kind of worried that I was just going to come over and just like hate it completely, just because of the type of film it was. But it was actually far more enjoyable than what I thought. It's not like one of the, it's not going to be one of the sort of better ones for me, but it's not also going to be one of the worst ones that we've watched either. So that's where I'm with it. I'll see. What do you think about it, Sean?
So when this had won, I'd say to you that I just have an overriding memory from my childhood of just pure hatred for this film. I remember my mum used to watch it. She used to get my sister to watch it all the time. But no, it's just one of those kind of childhood memories that, I hate that film. But see, when I watched it today, I was actually quite surprised. The first half hour, obviously, when you don't really see the apes, or you can see them up the top of the mountain or the hill or the cliff, I liked that. Like it built up really, really well to when you actually obviously met the humans first. And when he first met the humans, when they were kind of picking the trees and picking the fruit and stuff like that, I thought that was the apes at first. Like for the distance, I was watching on my wee tablet, and I was like, "Leave me the rest of here." And then obviously that wasn't the case. But I was quite surprised as to how much I did actually enjoy it. Again, you've already touched on it. Films for that decade, you're never going to get the most kind of visually pleasing makeup and all of that kind of stuff. It's not going to look great, especially a film like this where obviously you've got apes who are dressed fully in clothing and speak fluent English, and as you've already touched on, you know what I mean, they look great. Like they don't look dirty, they don't look the things you would expect them to look like. The twist at the end, I liked how it was just kind of like really quick and it was done. It wasn't drawn out. He's seen the statue. He's then said, what was it? Said you've blown it up or something like that. I'm assuming he's referring to the human civilization has basically just imploded on itself and just destroyed itself through war. I'm assuming that's what he was talking about. I'm probably totally miles after that, but I'm glad that it never drawn out in that. He just kind of seen it, made his wee comment on it, and then it just kind of faded to black. But no, I was actually pleasantly surprised by it. As I said, I went in with really, really low expectations. I'm sorry, Ben, but when this was voted to win, my head was in my hands. I was like, this poor guy's going to come on, and he obviously must like the film because he's chose it to go up, and I'm just going to have to absolutely slaughter it. But I was pleasantly surprised by it. It's not, and again, I echo what Hunter said, and I think Lindsay said it as well. I'm in their camp with sci-fi. It's not my go-to at all. It probably down kind of low. That and horror. I hate horror films as well. It's probably sci-fi and horror, the two least favourite kind of movie genres that I would go for. But again, I went into it with low expectations because just patchy childhood memories. And actually, I say I don't like sci-fi, but I actually do like the reboot, the Planet of the Apes, the 3 films. I actually really do like them. So maybe I'm talking shite when I say I don't like sci-fi films.
I would love to have seen the Google Maps of the route that he's taken in space to end up back on Earth.
What?
he's travelled for all that time, right,
Mm-hmm.
and he's essentially returned to Earth. But what he's meant to be in his random different planet over, but it seems like he's returned to Earth how many hundreds of years later.
Right.
So what he done is he just he just flew up in the rocket and just stood outside out of Earth and then fell back down, or has he done a big loopy circle and come back to the same place?
Kyle, are you on any sort of weird medication, please?
Always.
It's like when you get somebody out of the dentist who's just had the jags and they just start slavering fish.
That's fair on the basis, though.
You can't even see my house for Google Earth, never mind the fucking route these guys took to get back to Earth or whatever it was you were talking about there.
I have no idea what just happened.
To summarise, it was a film that I had very, very low expectations of. Like, I came out the other end of it quite satisfied that I'd actually watched it again as an adult, and it's not one that I'll go back to probably, if I'm honest. Kind of one and done, I suppose, as you would say. But it's interesting to see the differences between that and obviously the reboot, as to what the reboot is based on. They're completely different. I would have liked a more silent approach with the Apes, just to add a bit more kind of mystery to them, and instead of them just having full-blown conversations in English and stuff like that. I think that would have been a bit better, but it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? It's something that I'm quite happy that I was quite surprised by it. It's no, by all means, as I said, going to get a massively high score for me, but it was quite a pleasant surprise to come out the other end.
Is it better than The Godfather, Sean?
I hate The Godfather. Yep, better than The Godfather.
Moronsy, is it better than No Country for Old Men?
Yeah.
He's gonna fuck off. That's right. You all absolutely fucked it by letting me put No Country for Old Men back up into the top 10. So
let's go there. Daniel, go on. Tell us your thoughts on this.
Yeah, this is a movie that certainly won't be pushing the top 10. Well, I do quite like this film, right? And compared to the rest of the guys, I quite like sci-fi. I watched this film when I was younger on VHS with my granddad, and I remember quite liking it when I was young. But I love the new ones, and there's so many things about this one that I do struggle a bit with, like the way it builds up at the start. Do you know what I think this is, right? Did any of you ever watch the old Twilight Zone, like way back, like the original Twilight Zones, right? I feel like they could cut an hour out of this and it would have made an amazing Twilight Zone episode, but at nearly 2 hours and about a 20-minute scene in a 8-courtroom, like where I'm talking about treason, and like I kind of lose interest at that point. Like I really enjoyed the start. I enjoyed them going through the desert, making contact with the apes. Amazing. I enjoy it at the end when he leaves and then he eventually discovers everything's going on. That first half hour and the last half hour, I'm all in for. The middle, I was bored. At loads of different aspects of this. How many different times do I need to see you come and get him out of the cage and then take him and, oh no, you don't want to experiment on him. Yes, we do want to experiment on him. Well, you're not allowed to experiment on him. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake, man. Like, it just goes on and on a little bit. I feel like they're just sort of, I don't think there was much of a script available, that they've just panned out the middle with shit that didn't really forward the story all that much for me. I could have even done without the whole side drama of the female doctor and her fiance that helps him get out and all that. Just have him talking to the main fucking doctor guy, trying to communicate back and forth. You'd have probably had a more enjoyable film for me. But yeah, Charlton Heston's quite jarring in this at times compared to the original. Like when you get the original 3, he's very over the top in his acting and his gritty face, and the other two are quite subdued. But whatever happened to the third guy?
He got which one? The black guy or the white one?
Yeah, the black guy. Did we see him again, or did he die and stuff?
Yeah, he was taxidermied in the museum. The weird.
Museum.
Yeah, but if you blink and you miss it, yeah.
Yeah.
You do get
I always miss something in these. But yeah, Charlton Heston, and the point Bunzy made was something that I'd written down, was when he couldn't speak for so long, and then suddenly he can speak again, and he comes straight in with that big booming Charlton Heston acting voice, which I quite liked. It was as if like somebody had just flicked a wee switch in his throat. But yeah, the weird thing about it for me, I sort of loosely touched on him having like the weird sex pet, and how that was portrayed. That made me feel a wee bit uneasy.
Especially when he started playing with the doll and stuff like that. That was dead creepy as fuck.
But like even when she sort of bares her teeth at him, and he's like, "Oh look, I've taught it to smile," is almost how he says it. During like it's a little plaything that the hero's taken away to fuck, essentially. That bit was weird. But yeah, no, it's a moderately enjoyable film. I do wish it was just like it would be a really good episode of The Twilight Zone, is the best way I can summarise it for myself. But as a film, I much prefer the new ones. I'd watch them all day. I think the modern ones, not the Tim Burton one to be clear, because that's fucking dog shit. That's what. But the newest trilogy, I think, is excellent. For those of you that haven't watched it, it's fucking very good.
I feel like I've only watched maybe 2 of them, not watched them all. Definitely need to get them watched. Hunter, there must have been Hochin fully trivia for this as well.
Yes, there was, and a fair bit of it's been rattled off already. Not through fault, obviously Ben is well versed on a lot of stuff to do with this film, so even just in talking about through some of it, he's took off some of the things that are on
you've stolen Hunter's trivia.
list.
Hunter's got one job to get some trivia and you've stole it all, Ben.
Not all of it, no.
Don't worry, we typically steal most of it each week.
I'm sure I read on the things that Linda Harrison, who was obviously played the mute sex pet issues with mildly that I believe what I read is that it was actually an affair she had with the producer. So she was in a relationship. The producer then had an affair with her, and then they did go and get married and have a couple of kids. But it was a less than a decade-long romance that they had anyway. But it was started off from breaking the sanctity of marriage in the first place. So apart from what I read, there's 3 other endings were suggested. However, the one that they went with was the one that was favoured by Charlton Heston. All the apes and the extras were required to keep in makeup during breaks in filming, as it took too long to do. I've got to remember how long ago this was. So what happened was their meals had to be liquefied, and they then had to drink their dinner through a straw with a mask on.
Oh, lovely.
And considering that's quite a hot movie, isn't it? There's a lot of sunshine now. Like, I assume so. Charlton Heston's basically naked throughout, isn't he? Almost. Mm-hmm. But he does his may last quite a lot. I do admit that was another negative to the film. Is Charlton Heston's ass. But yeah, that must have been the hot heat with all that makeup. That's a bad day at work. That's a long day.
A nice warm smoothie for your dinner.
Oh.
Yeah.
Steak, egg and chips liquefied. So you touched on that there. So the film was shot from May to August, and then they learnt their lesson. So the 3 original sequels that were filmed after this were then filmed over a winter month, so that nobody was cooking inside that makeup.
Jeez.
So the quote, "Get your stinking paws off me, you damned and dirty ape," was voted in at number 66 as the top 100 movie quotes of all time by the American Film Institute. So Charlton Heston and Linda Harrison are the only actors to appear in both the 1968 original and the 2001. Is that the Tim Burton one, the 2001?
Yeah. We'll have to convince Daniel to watch that and let us know what part they play.
So when adjusted with inflation, the movie holds the world record for the highest makeup budget ever, which at the time was $345,000. Yes, so about 17% of the total budget of $2 million for the film was just on makeup alone.
Jeez.
There's no female gorillas or orangutans in this. One of only also 2 G-rated, I presume that is Guardian rate, like PG, PG-rated movies to feature nudity, the other being The Bible and The Beginning from 1966 as well. So a bit of bare arse must have been allowed in the 60s. They could be a bit more liberal and a bit more free before they sort of ramped up the level of scrutiny for that. And producer Arthur Jacobs actually bought the screenplay rights for the film before the novel was ever even published. And Pierre Boulle, who the author he touched on, Ben, from what I read, thought the novel was actually one of his. Well, he wasn't impressed with the novel at the time of writing it, but obviously look at it, it's obviously written. Definitely made him or his estate a very wealthy people, I'd imagine, in the years that have preceded it being written.
Yeah, especially with the success of the latest ones, anyway.
Yeah.
Right, you'll have a branch off from that. Well, I think it's a good point now, guys, to come in and give it a scoring. Before we give it a scoring, IMDb has got this scored an 8 out of 10, which is quite high. So let's see what the Morons say to it. Daniel, before we get our scores, what was the results like on Instagram from people commenting?
So this one got a few. It didn't get as many responses as our next movie's going to get, but I got a mixture from sort of a couple of 2s and 3s in there to a couple of 5s. So I think, again, quite polarising this one, that some people seem to love it or dislike it.
Well, Ben, we're going to come to you first of all for your score to set the tone, but just a reminder on how the scoring works for those that haven't heard it before. We score it up to 5 from 0. We have one movie sitting on a 0. I don't think this one will join it. But you just score in increments of 0.25. So take it away.
Alright, well, I'll set the bar high and let you guys lower it. So I'll give it 4.75.
A 4.75, a near perfect movie coming in from Ben. Let's see if Hunter goes anywhere close to that.
Oh, I've definitely been flung under the bus here, like. And as I said, it's 4 might seem low compared to yourself, Ben, but in the grand scheme of our, it's actually quite reasonable. As I've said, there's a lot I can take away from it as I did enjoy, and if anything, what it's done is piqued my interest as, and I would like to go and watch the newer films. There's definitely, I believe there's a lot. And then I would like to go back and watch them when I've got some spare time, which is coming to an end, but I will try and get them done at some point. But for me, 2.5.
All that for 2.5.
I know, that was like severe sweat there trying to justify why he's going to give it a 2.5 after Ben scored it so positively. Burnsy, let's see what you say to the scoring now.
So I'm up to Hunter, but just a wee bit lower than him, so I'm going to give it a 2.25.
You've actually taken it down even further. Wow. Sean, are you continuing that trend, or are we going back up the way?
No, we'll go back up the way. I'm going to give it a 2.75.
A 2.75. Well, the way you said that there, I was so confident it was going to be a lot higher than that. Daniel?
I'm in line with Hunter this week. I enjoyed half of this movie, so I give it half marks at a 2.5.
A 2.5. Well, I'll score it the highest from all the Morons. I did like it. There are always loads of elements that we've all touched on that would score it down there, but I'll give it a solid 3 from me. Now, we pad out the now for a minute or two just to get Burnsy does the maths to work it out for us, Ben. But what's your reaction to our scoring, Ben?
You're breaking my heart, chaps. But it seems to be the general consensus is that either way, you're all charmed by it. You're at least charmed, and I'm grateful for that. It's a very, very much sci-fi with a capital S and a capital F. You know, that's a real. Here's a concept, we're running with it, and I respect that. Glad, I like the reboot as well. It's a trilogy that was amazing. It blew me away, especially the last one. Jeez, blimey. Also, there were sequels to this, the 68 one. That was like there's part of 5, and I just say like the second one is good, but a bit more madness with it. Third one, pretty cool. Cornelius and Zira, they go to Earth, and so it's them trying to and our modern times. So that's really cool. But the fourth one, which is Quentin Tarantino's favourite, and that's this weird world where humans rule still, but we enslaved the apes, and they are like our slaves. So I really do. You know, if you ever want to sort of persevere with this sort of going to the 70s monkey sci-fi, there's great films to follow as well.
Oh,
so anyone else out there, great
by
stuff.
saying Tarantino's name, you've instantly lost one of us. Sean's not a Tarantino fan at all.
Depends if there's any feet in it, though. That's true. If there's no feet, then Sean might be happy.
He wasn't involved in the film, just one of his favourite films.
It's only because there's feet in it.
Burnsy, that's giving you enough time.
Do they wear boots? The apes? Do they wear boots?
That's they did.
I think so.
Yeah.
It was like a green.
Noticed.
It was like green kind of overalls that they had on. They had like a brown centre, and I'm sure it was boots they had on.
I don't think they could afford it really at that point. It's like Hobbit-like feet makeup.
Good. They spent enough on that makeup. Burnsy, what would you give that as an overall scoring for us?
So that's overall 2.96.
2.96. So if we refer that to our leaderboard, we are up to 103 movies that we have watched so far. This brings this movie into number 56 on our leaderboard, which takes that to be one point, just literally 1 point above The Wanderers, and below Heat and District 9 is the next two movies that are above it on our list. It's above The Wanderers and then Don't Look Up, which was a controversial one when we watched that one.
Yeah,
I mean, there's sci-fi that preaches. You got, that could be a double bill there.
well, there was a lot of really polarising reactions to our Don't Look Up reviews. I think that was when the death threats started coming as well, wasn't it?
Well, this could easily be a sequel to Don't Look Up, couldn't it? Like,
that's true, yeah. If you
Wow.
watch the end scenes, that will make sense.
Well, there you go, guys. That brings us to the end of Planet of the Apes. So, but before we move on, just as we're talking about scoring, I want to pick Ben's brains a little bit to get. So, Ben, you've been following our Instagram account for a little bit of time now, and you've been seeing the scores and the votes that we've been given there. Now, is there any votes that you've really agreed with, or ones that you've extremely disagreed with, which I'm assuming that's what you can remember more than the others?
Well, one of the things that's so I really liked your Bridesmaids and Superbad episode, and so already you guys have actually flipped my brain about Planet of the Apes for the feeling guilty now about Charlton Heston having sex with what would be to us a mentally disabled girl. So thank you for bringing that to light to myself. And then I always thought Bridesmaids was this. Well, okay, so criticising comedy is very difficult because
of course,
you either laugh at it or you don't. You've got to be honest with it. I think Bridesmaids is brilliant and one of the few films that really make me laugh out loud. I don't really find most comedies that good, but at the end of the day, did I find Melissa McCarthy shitting on a sink funny? Yeah, I laughed out loud, and so that's really hard to criticise. But when I'm though, it's sort of you're sort of saying about all these scenes that seem so unnecessary, these characters that seem so inconsistent or consistently boring. I thought, geez, do I not like this film anymore? This is you really changed my mind on it. I mean, the one thing you missed out, I thought, was the most pointless scene. I thought was Kristen Wiig making that cupcake for herself, which was just a ridiculous thing. I don't know if you ever do baking, you can't make a cupcake for one person. That is a stupid waste of time. But thank you for that. I agree. Superbad I wasn't keen on myself. But yeah, so one of my biggest sort of wonders about criticism for me, though, was Schindler's List. I didn't understand the point about it was too much of a downer. That would seem to be sort of a recurring kind of criticism. It's a bit too depressing to be considered worthy, which is, it is depressing. That's not my argument. I'm not saying I thought it was hilarious. I'm not going to say some sort of. I'm not going to get you guys cancelled already.
If we were going to get cancelled, it would have happened already, man. So on the Schindler's List thing, right? So me and Kyle, we gave it 4.5, 4.75, something like that.
4.75,
yeah. And I would say that I personally tend to be the one that leans towards the side of scoring the more artistically merited films higher, regardless of enjoyment. But I knew when watching it, like, that Hornsey, you're not particularly into history. You'd have found it a bit of a slog. It's a lot of harrowing stuff to watch over and over again for folk to enjoy. But I'll let you guys with the low scores jump in and defend it. I've done my best for you.
You say low scores. Sorry, Hunter. You did give it the lowest actually, but when you say low scores, like me and Bundy gave it a 3.25, Hunter gave it a 3. For if you look back at all the films that we've scored, for me, I would say that a 3.25 as a relatively as a score on the high side. I try not to score films like as we get it through Instagram all the time. Like every film that we put up, that's a 5 out of 5. That's a 5 out of 5. No, every film is a 5 out of 5 for me, and this was just pure down to taste. Like it's just when I watch a film, I want to be entertained, and it's an important film as we spoke about, but I just couldn't go back and watch this again. I just couldn't. It was just horrible, which I suppose is what it's not meant to be pleasant in that. But I would say, in my defence, and Bundy's and even Hunter's, a 3 or a 3.25 for me is a pretty positive score. Although I understand, because this film is obviously regarded very, 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 very high, so it probably doesn't reflect well on this. But I just. My reason for a 3.25 is that when I watch a film, I want to be entertained, and this is one of the few films that I did like it, but I wouldn't say entertaining as a word that I would use for it.
So it's like going to McDonald's and going for a healthy meal, and it's like, well, this salad tastes like shit. I want a burger. I want to go to McDonald's. I want to have a burger. Maybe that's sort of why you want to have that.
It's like almost something that like would be. I would view it as like a documentary type thing, I suppose. Where it's important to obviously to watch that you're learning and understanding about the atrocious things that happened back then, and I try to stay away from films that are really sad and it'll basically drive you to tears and stuff like that. I don't like crying.
Oh,
it's really sad.
You summed up perfectly, Sean. I think we were pretty much the same.
And also, on that,
just don't like
the day that we watched it, or the weekend we were watching it, was like that first weekend. Everyone was going back to work after the festive break, so totally, and that's when it set me off even more. I was like, strap yourself in for a 4.5 hour watch. Remember, it was that and Marriage Story within the space of 6 hours for some of us. So
that was a hard week,
yeah. And I think we are quite good at when it comes to, because we've got some movies that, like, obviously I geeked over Avenger movies and Marvel movies. People, when we've watched things like horror movies and stuff, a horror movie is not going to be like a top 10 critically acclaimed movie, but it's about how it makes you feel when you're watching it. What was your experience like as well, rather than just fully critiquing the movie. And I think that's where we do something a little bit different. We're not just fully critiquing the movie based on the movie, it's also about the enjoyment factor that we have had as an element to it. But it's always interesting to hear what people think when we score it, because like someone said earlier about how people just jump on the gram and they're like, right, you're getting a 5 or that's getting a 0. It's a 5 or a 0. We very rarely get 2.5s and 3s and 4s. It's all sugar or all shite basically, which is always interesting.
No, I like it. I think it's the real honesty there, and Schindler's List. I mean, last time I watched it, my wife went to the hairdressers, and I sort of thought, well, I've got 3 hours to go, kind of thing. I might rewatch this film as an adult. I was about 16 when I first watched it, and I thought, and then just came back, and I was like, yeah, all right, that's it. My Saturday's ruined now. I'm done. So,
what you should do, you should watch it, and then after it, go watch Marriage Story directly after it, and then then film yourself talking about your experience of the two.
Yeah, good mental health, guys. That's it. Double bill next time. Sonny the monkey. Talking monkeys don't seem so terrible now, do they?
No. You get comments for this, Sean, this week?
Oh, I have. I've got a couple of comments. Hold on, I'll get them up. So this is the part where I just go through our Instagram comments just for a laugh and read them out, the ridiculous ones. So I went back. So these are kind of older comments. This is from Hereditary. which we shat on, really.
really badly.
So a guy, I don't know how to pronounce this, I'll just go for it. Cetacula, after a hereditary score, which I believed was like 1.4 or something like that. So he said, that's it. This account is total bullshit. Now, Daniel, or Kyle, whoever's in charge of Instagram, just replied with laughing faces. Now, 34 people liked his original post. So obviously a lot of people think that the account is total bullshit. He then said, white males giving their narrow-minded opinions, throw yourself in the sea. This is on the back of us saying that we didn't like a film, by the way. So, we need to calm down a wee bit. We then got Get High Watching Movies, who then said, are you guys fucking insane? And then he commented again, saying, really putting the morons into morons reviewing things. It's actually morons reviewing movies. Is the term. And then obviously,
I've had a few interactions with Get High. It's quite a funny account, actually.
Aye, but I just find it quite funny that you put morons reviewing things, which isn't what they are. If they were just reviewing things, like morons reviewing this glass, aye, like that's morons reviewing things.
Listen, that's just leaving it open up for us when we start doing TV shows and music and games.
And just a couple more. This one is on Trainspotting, so I went back to look at the Trainspotting comments. So obviously we'd reviewed Trainspotting. I believe it was Hunter's Choice. I might be wrong with that, I can't remember. But Cohen Milligan 7644 said, I'll never watch this junk, LOL. I don't know if he means Trainspotting or if he means us. Wasn't really clear, but nobody interacted with him, so that's good. And again, to go back to Get High Watching Movies, again, this was after Schindler's List, as you've just been talking about. And as I said, me, Burnsy and Hunter gave it a 3.25 for me and Burnsy and a 3 for Hunter. And Get High Watching Movies said, I take it those three on the right are all of German descent. And that was me, Burnsy and Hunter, well, obviously the three on the right that he was referring to. And just to confirm for you, mate, no, we're not of German descent.
This is what did they say they were on the far right, then we'll be alright.
Was it on the far right?
And I've just noticed as well, just one wee comment under this from Lucas Jacques, who asked, are they the same five guys every time? In reference to us doing this. So I think I commented on that saying, no, there's a group of like 100 of us and we just change it up every week. And he was like, oh, thanks, dude. Oh, that's funny. Anyway, so that concludes the comments.
Following on for that guy, that did happen. And then I had to tell him that you were just joking.
Aye.
You said it was 100 of us. So I said, well, he's only joking, and he came back. He was like, "Why would you do that?" Like,
you really upset him, Sean, by the sounds of it. Oh, awesome! I love it. I love the comment corner because I do look through them myself, but sometimes you miss a few that have come a few weeks after we've had them, so it's always good to catch up. But guys, listen, it's time to move on to the next movie, which is one that has been up on our voting quite a few times, I think. LA Confidential, out in 1997. A corruption grows in the 1950s Los Angeles, where three policemen, one straight-laced, one brutal and one sleazy, investigate a series of murders with their own brand of justice. Now, Ben, we're going to come to you first again. I want to say thanks for picking this, because like I said, this is one of these movies where I've seen the poster in the box for this a million times and never ever watched it. And then it's been on the votes, but it's never quite got through to winning so far. So I'm glad to finally watched it. But we'll take it away to you to give us some information and your thoughts about LA Confidential.
Brilliant. Well, this is to many a classic of 90s cinema. This is a neo noir, taking a sort of film noir tropes and bringing it to the modern age at that point. And it's all very and it's set in the 50s. And in Hollywood, in many ways people consider a Christmas film because the first 20 minutes was in the Christmas period. And it's a weird blend of true story and very high fiction. So there are things like the Mickey Cohen gangster and all that. That sort of sets upon the real life gangster who's put in prison in this power vacuum, and who's going to take it down. But the local police are very tough people. But there's a sort of wide variety of characters, and in walks Guy Pearce, the young, fresh idealist who's taken on from this reputation of his father who died on line of duty. And it's in many ways, I want to start with a potential criticism. It is a very complex film. There's a lot of names throwing around, and it's something which I personally struggle with films, and that's sort of crime films especially, because it's like, oh, Steve must have done that. I thought, well, who the fuck was Steve again? Oh, that guy, the fat guy, that sort of thing. Can you call him that? But especially when you do that. But it's very much led by the cast. So we got, on the one hand, you got Guy Pearce, who at that point was fresh from Australia. This was his big moment in America, playing the idealist. You got Russell Crowe, also fresh from Australia, who at that point was famous for Romper Stomper, one of my favourite neo-Nazi films, if I can say that correctly, and Kevin Spacey. Remember that guy, especially now, especially that scene when he's grooming a young actor to become sexual acts. I thought, oh, that hasn't aged well.
He's in the same plane as Tarantino, Sean, eh?
I have said it before, Hollywood is filled with people like this. It's no nice.
Yeah, it's pretty gross, isn't it? But there we go. So it's but I think it's a beautiful looking film. It got real that period detail. You got that real sort of darkness going on there, but there's a bit more depth to it. These cops who are so conflicted, there's such greyness there. It's a very nihilistic world, and it's got some real sort of beauty to it. And like I say, the plots do get a bit complicated at points, but I think I enjoy the ride, enjoy the flavour of the film a lot. I love like I say, the acting is great. Danny DeVito, is he the most likeable actor in the world? I mean, that could be my pitch in there, and he's just fantastic. Kim Basinger, who won an Oscar for the performance. Sorry, I might have already trod on some trivia there. Storming as the likeable prostitute. And there's so many great scenes as well. You've got the interrogation scene that was just sort of where they're flipping around and trying to sort of catch these guys, and you're trying to catch it along with it. It's really exciting stuff there. And that shootout at the end, wow, that was such great action, and it feels quite real and gritty, and anything can happen because, spoiler alert, when Kevin Spacey dies quite early on in the film, you think, shit, okay, no one's safe now. Especially since at that point Kevin Spacey was the biggest star at that point of the lead actors. So it's a really murky, grimy, horrible film, portrait that's beautifully put together, I believe. But yeah, like I said, it does get a little bit complicated, wordy, and does fall over itself, I feel, at points, but still a great ride, I'd say.
Yeah, it was a really interesting movie, and what confused me throughout watching it, and I did pause and rewind a few times, was like, am I supposed to like Russell Crowe or not like him in this movie? Because he is an arsehole in it, but with a really sad story behind him that makes him react the way that he does to violence against women and stuff. But it was quite difficult because then when he gets his confrontation with the woman, he lashes out at her, which is the one thing that he's been trying to stop everyone from doing. And so one of the biggest takes I took from this was like, I don't know if I liked him or not. Was he a bad guy? Was he a good guy? He just kind of seemed to jump all over the place a little bit for me.
Aren't you meant to feel that? Isn't that the feeling though? You're meant to not be like him 100%?
Yeah. I think that you're supposed to be 50-50 on a lot of these characters. Like, because Guy Pearce's character leans too far into the goody two-shoes, like, we'll do everything by the book character that no one really likes. Although he's, like, idealistic, he's also a bit of a fucking annoying loser. And then you've got Russell Crowe's character who goes too far the other way. He won't give evidence against his pals. He'll fucking knock fuck out of suspects and do things the hard way. And you're supposed to think that both of them are like too far in their own direction. I would assume anyway. I don't think you're supposed to like either of them. I don't like either of them.
And then you've got the biggest narcissist in the world in Kevin Spacey's character, who you know you're not supposed to like.
Mm-hmm.
They put that out there, you know you're not supposed to do that. But Hunter, let's come to you and find out your thoughts.
Yeah, so for me, I think the fact, obviously, we were talking about the characters, like the way that, especially with Guy Pearce and Russell Crowe's portrayals, is the fact that we go in so hard on them, as in, it's because they're so well portrayed and they're played, and the acting for them is brilliant. As I say, for two relative novices for such a high-level Hollywood film, I thought both of them were excellent. Even not only that, I think the on-screen time together, I think there was some good intensity. You could tell the hatred between both. But again, similar to how we feel about them as individuals, never mind when they're on screen together, is the respect for them and their jobs. And you see that come across, that even though they have different polarising views, and one's basically had photographed and sleeping with the other one's missus, even though it's all been a big set up for the one go, that both of them still want to do right, even though neither of them is fully right. And I think that comes across well at the end. For me, as the film itself, I did find myself just sort of maybe plateauing along for the first sort of 2/3 of it. I mean, it's kind of like, as I said, there's a lot going on, and you're kind of like, what's going on? How is this playing out? What is really happening? And it wasn't really until when they find the body underneath the ex-partner's girlfriend's mum's house. And then
how wild is that woman, by the way?
I know. But then from there, like, oh, there's a dead rat there. There's actually a dead body that's been there for weeks.
Fuck's sake.
I thought to even phone anyone to come clean the dead rat out.
She was absolutely mad. It was one of those ones where I was like, I was giving more attention to her when she was on screen because of just how ridiculous she was. To anything else, it was just a character that stood out to me. I was like, Jesus Christ! I was like, please somebody parody her. Like, I want to see a parody account to this character.
I know, but as it from there on, it definitely did ramp up with everything. That was kind of obviously that was when all the pieces started falling in place. The reason that there was this big long intro essentially before this point, this is what everything was building up. That was the start of the crescendo. And from that point, I was really bought into the film a lot more and was then sucked into the world. I was totally mesmerised with it from that point on, building up to the shootout at the end, which again is drama-filled. The cleverness of Russell Crowe's character is like, I'm going to get them for the ground, because even of the two sitting ducks sitting at that point, you could put all the mattresses and cupboards and wardrobes up with the windows, but when you're outnumbered and you're basically a sitting duck, and the cleverness and even the teamwork at that point, even though they were punching lights at each other not too long before then. But again, from that point on, as I said, that's when my interest picked up, and the film definitely ended for me a lot better than how it started. I did very much enjoy it by the time the film ended.
No, fair play, because there is a lot of parts of it where it's just like it is teetering along to get to a point, which I know is really, really important to build that story, to connect these three totally different people together at one time. Burnsy, I'm going to assume this was a first time watch for you?
It was, yeah. So I think, touching on what Ben has said, the thing that I find that I did struggle with was there was that many characters in it, and at points when they mentioned people's names, and I was kind of a wee bit lost. Sometimes I was having to go rewind back to say, who's that guy again, so that I was understanding it. But apart from that part, I did really enjoy it. I thought that Russell Crowe was class in it, and Guy Pearce was also really good, but I thought Russell Crowe, to me, was the best one. And I think, like what you were touching on, Kel, is that you are sort of torn whether you like them or not. But I think obviously what added to it was with both their characters, they gave that, even though it was only a small part, they gave you a small backstory to understand why they actually got started involved in the police. Like, if that wasn't given, they would come across, like, Russell Crowe's character would have just came across as a complete arsehole. But because you could understand why he was going about doing that kind of stuff, it helped obviously to understand his character a bit. And also, like, the bit I was kind of like laughing at, I was like, when it was saying about the prostitutes having like plastic surgery to make themselves look like film stars, I was like, so random. I was just like, why would that even encompass? Well, to me, why would that encompass somebody's head? Maybe.
I'd imagine that's a big thing. Probably, I think that's probably something that's happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I can imagine people think like that, but to me, I was just like, what? It just seems so bizarre. And also, like you touched on before as well, is having Russell Crowe's character and Guy Pearce's character together as like towards sort of the middle to end of the film. I thought in the scenes that they were together were really enjoyable as well. And you could sort of see the emotion in terms of they were struggling to. They obviously didn't really like each other, but they knew that they had to work together. And I think that's a really good way for the film to go. The shootout was also class, as we've touched on before. And I think for me, the ending where it just proves, it goes back to the point of all there being all these lies and corruption, because even at the end of the film, they're still lying at the public, which is what they were sort of doing obviously at the very start in terms of people knowing what was actually going on with all the corruption things. So I thought it sort of took you on a journey, and at the end of it, you're still kind of like, although obviously there's a massive thing that's happened throughout the film, it still comes back to that thing about like trying to protect people, lie to people, and the police just like not telling the public the full story and hiding things, which I thought was a real interesting plot. I thought that was that's the only bit that I struggled with, which might have just been myself, or like Ben said he was struggling a wee bit as well, was about there being maybe there was just too many characters within the film. They maybe could have narrowed that down a wee bit so that you wouldn't lose what was going on at stages. But out with that, I thought there wasn't really any positive, any negative things to say about it.
I think with your statement of lying to the public and like hiding the truth, is that not just describing politics in general? Is that not just what politics is?
Mm-hmm.
So,
it was more just the fact that you're on a complete like a start, and then at the end you're still, to me, we're still in the same. It was the same scenario at the end as it was at the start with all the cover-ups and things. So I thought that was quite an interesting way to go with it, instead of it just being like everyone gets killed that was like in the wrong, and then the ones that were either. And I know you were saying how you're not sure whether you like Russell Crowe or Guy Pearce's character, but there was like certain aspects that were likeable about them, whereas the people that were involved in the corruption and the lies, there wasn't anything likeable about those, I didn't think. So out of them all, those are the ones you'd expect, and that might have just been the ones that were standing tall at the end, which technically was, I guess, in a way how it worked, but also there was people that were in it for the full way that were still in position and things. So no, I thought it was really enjoyable.
Do you think it's when you look back and you see all the different people that are policemen at the time and think, was a requirement to become a cop to be like really overweight and lazy and old? I know they mention it, but they've got one guy that the guy that got shot in the Night Owl, about how he failed all his like health exams and stuff like that. But surely all of them did, because when you watch them in that big like fight in the middle of with the Mexican guys at the cells, it's just these like, really overweight old men. I'm like, well, that's LA's finest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On you go.
At the time, the technology was quite sort of limiting what you could do to catch a criminal. So you had to run and grab them. That was being a cop.
Not in LA. Everyone got away. We can assure you that every single person got away. Sorry, Sean. Let's come to you and get your thoughts. Sean, had you seen this one before?
I hadn't. No. It was the first time for me as well, and it pretty much has been covered already. Half the stuff I was going to say anyway. I was quite confused. I enjoyed the start of it. Obviously, the opening scene where the domestic abuse is happening in the house, and he goes in and obviously deals with it. I thought this was going to be quite good, and then it did get quite confusing. Obviously, there was quite a lot of characters, a lot of names thrown about. I wasn't really sure in the direction that it was taking. It wasn't until I think when Kevin Spacey's character got shot in the house where it kind of then started to pick up for me a bit, because I just kind of found myself not really switching off, but just thinking to myself, I must have missed something. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what they're talking about here. Blah 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 blah. But then after that, it did really pick up, and as Hunter said, it was a strong end to the film as well. I thought I was confused as well with what Danny DeVito's role in this film was. He was a private investigator, wasn't he? Is that right?
No, he published gossip magazine.
See, I thought he was a private investigator.
Like the National Enquirer type idea.
So when he was taking pictures and stuff like that, when I'm terrible with characters' names, when Guy Pearce's character was in with Kim Basinger, and he was taking pictures, I just thought, oh, he must be a private investigator then. But then I never seen anybody asking me to investigate. It just totally threw me. I was confused throughout the kind of middle 40 minutes, I would say, the film. I didn't really understand what the fuck was going on. But then, as I said, it did pick up towards the end, and then it did start to kind of make a lot more sense with the corruption side of it. But I did end up enjoying it, although it was a bit of a kind of slow burner at times. Just as I was going to say when you were talking about the policeman, Kyle, it's a very stereotypical representation of American policemen. Sometimes the big heavy guys, and they're very heavy-handed and stuff like that. The only thing missing was them sitting at their desk eating donuts and drinking coffee and all that. But no, I did enjoy it. As I said, I thought that I'd kind of lost my way at parts of it. There was a lot of names getting thrown about. Like the whole Night Owl thing as well, I found quite confusing. Obviously, when they'd done the interrogation, they kept switching the sound system on so that the other guys could hear, and it sounded like they were just ratting each other out and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then they obviously after that it's cut away to them. I can't remember where they went, but then those guys have escaped. And I was like, how the fuck did that happen? And there isn't really much reference as to how they've done it. They're just back, and then obviously there's the big shootout in the flat. But again, just kind of bits like that. I'm maybe not properly listening and taking stuff in. I was a bit lost during the middle of it, but no, I did fairly enjoy it once it picked up towards the end. Kind of final 45 minutes or so were really enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. Daniel, you're next up.
I'm maybe going to lean a little bit further into things that annoyed me about this than the other guys. I forgot I had seen this. I saw this years ago. And once I started watching it, I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I've seen this. There's too much going on. There's far too much going on. Like, there's been a few movies we've watched that are about this time period where whoever's making it's clearly been on a lot of cocaine. Because, like, you need to settle on something. Like, I took notes of, like, the storylines that are going on. So there's plastic surgery hookers. There's heroin dealing. There's police brutality. There's dirty cops. There's taking over the mob by both the police and mobsters. There's the shooting in the diner, which happens to put into effect all of these different storylines all seem to sort of tie together in this diner, but none of them actually do. The fat guy cop that gets killed, who's going out with the girl that's had the plastic surgery, what the fuck does that mean for anything? It doesn't mean anything. No. It doesn't add anything to any story, but they figure it out. It's like, oh, the guy that was the cop was shagging the girl that had the nose job. Cool. Doesn't help them with the fucking case anywhere. Like, there's so many things that are added into this that don't really add anything of value. Has anyone played the game L.A. Noire for like the PS3 or PS4, whatever it was? No?
No.
No. Oh man, that's what this feels like. It's a bit like it's jumping too quickly between here's a scene, now here's a scene, now here's a scene, now here's a fucking scene, and there's something mad and different going on in all of these. And then you can imagine them just sitting in a cocaine, and it's like, right, and what if Guy Pearce fucks the hooker now? What if he does it? Right, okay, and they're filming him, they've got him. Right, now they're filming him, he's being blackmailed by Danny DeVito, who's going to get taken prisoner by the weird captain, who's going to fucking... There's too much going on. I mean, it's like layers and layers of shite a bit for me. And I don't know, it's a bit too much style over substance, this film. I was incredibly disappointed with it, compared to my expectations. I do wish they'd leaned a little bit more into the theme a little bit and made it just full black and white. Would make me actually enjoy it a bit more, I think, because the Guy Pearson's Russell Crowe did a good job of having that 50s style delivery. So it stands out a little bit compared to the rest of the cast, because none of the rest of the cast are doing it. But like, I feel like Guy Pearson, Russell Crowe's characters sound like they are in like a 50s movie, whereas everyone else just sounds like they're in a movie for the 90s, and that doesn't quite tie in for me.
There was large parts of it where I forgot it was set in the 50s. It felt very 90s, like the background music and stuff like that. It felt like a very 90s kind of cop film. And there was only certain bits where I was like, this is actually meant to be, like, when you seen the cars and stuff like that, I was like, this is set in the 50s, but it didn't feel like that throughout the whole film, which was weird.
Yeah, it was totally strange for me, and like I said, I think Guy Pearson, Russell Crowe did a really good job leaning completely into that style, and then nothing else in the movie sort of went along with it. Yeah. And again, it just felt like too many ideas. Like, was it a concept film? Was it not? I don't know. And the biggest thing that annoyed me about this whole film was, see the captain, who was the main bad guy.
Yeah.
What was his accent? What the fuck was his accent?
Irish.
He was Irish for like small parts of it.
Again, we spoke about this with that absolute shit show, Boondock Saints, whatever. It's an absolute terrible accent, because I did notice it at first and I thought, is he playing somebody that's Irish, or because he kept saying Boyle? Was it Boyle he kept saying? Like, nobody says Boyle. It's fucking Boyle. But it was terrible. Atrocious.
I was doing my fucking head in, because it was, see, if it was just a bad accent all the way through, it'd be fine, but it was a bad accent. Then there was no accent for like 20 minutes of dialogue, and then just straight back to fucking accent. It really annoyed me. But I feel like I've shat on this more than it deserves. It was quite good fun. I know that.
Also, you did like it.
That's like a typical Daniel review. Let's shut all over it for 20 minutes and get 2 seconds about how I liked it, and I'll get a 4.
It was all right. It was okay. It was inoffensive. It just felt like 20 different ideas shoved into one movie.
I think, Daniel, you've got a career writing Valentine's Day cards. That's it'd be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, but yeah, it's okay. It's a bit disappointing. That's fine.
Oh, see, I mean, I liked it. I thought it was good. There is a lot going on, and you tend to kind of focus on the characters that are doing it for you. So I really liked Guy Pearson. I thought he was awesome, and I typically don't even like him in a lot of films. We've not even reached out to talking about how beautiful Kim Basinger is in it as well. So that gets a couple of marks up just for that alone. For me, it's one of those films that is, you can tell it's filmed in the 90s. It's kind of unapologetic in that, and I think Daniel's raised a really good point of make it black and white. That would have added so much more to it. I really liked Kevin Spacey's character, as much as you're meant to really loathe him, but I like how well he acted in it, as much as he is an arsehole in real life, to put it politely. He was probably my favourite character in it, and I was so shocked when he died, because when Ben touched on about like Russell Crowe and Guy Pearson stuff, who are big names now, when like in 2022, and you look at the cast of it there, like really Danny DeVito, Kim Basinger and Spacey to an extent were the really big names at that point. So when he died, it is quite a shock to see him dying so early on. I didn't think he would die at all. But I'm sure Hunter's got some really good trivia that will touch on these points about... I've taken note of Romper Stomper as a movie I'm going to watch, because I've not seen that for a long time, and I actually forgot all about that.
Yeah, good movie.
It is indeed. So now we're kind of touching, or very apt that we maybe start off with this to the trivia point. So Kevin Spacey, for being one of the 3 actors, so he was the one with top billing. So the 3 main actors in the film, he is top billing, but actually has the least screen time out of the 3 of them, obviously, because he popped his cogs early on. Good riddance. So Guy Pearce, when rereading originally reading the screenplay for Ed Exley's role, he wasn't keen on the role at first because it was very overly self-righteous. So he wasn't keen on the role at first, did eventually do it, and very well done. So Russell Crowe also initially turned the film down as he did not believe he could play such a tough character convincingly. And this is after he's played somebody with a skinhead bashing people in 5 years before in a little independent Australian film called Romper Stomper. Don't think you could be convincingly enough as a tough guy though.
I guess so, famously goes around the world fighting people. Didn't think that he could.
Exactly. So again, he was cast after the director had seen Romper Stomper. Kim Basinger, also Oscar-winning role for this. It was an only nomination that year. I don't know where I wrote just only nomination from, but it was actually her first film for 3 years. So she hadn't acted for 3 years. Then comes in this and wins an Oscar.
Must have been Batman before that, surely.
What? 94 would have been, Batman 92, I think, was it though?
So she'd been married to Alec Baldwin in that time, so that's a lot of pressure there, isn't it? Trying to deal with people at home.
Yeah.
Him and all his brothers all in the same house.
Sorry, that boy getting shot.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh wow, we've went there.
There's that cancer coming in, boys. So Bud White, the role was originally offered to Michael Madsen first, who turned it down, and Mel Gibson was also considered, so they must have wanted an Australian in there at some point. Only the only Best Picture nomination at the Oscars that also received a nomination for adapted screenplay as well. And finally, the total death count, 30 people.
Wow.
It's a lot less than what
Can I add another interesting aside on as well? Do you remember the character, the mob guy who was sort of snitching a bit to the police, and he was dating Lana Turner, the real Lana Turner, in the film?
Yes.
Because that's a real guy, Johnny Stompanato. Lana Turner was a big actress at the time. She had 8 marriages to 7 men, one of those sort of types. But she did have a relationship with this Johnny Stompanato, but he was a very abusive man to her. And it got so abusive one night that her 15-year-old daughter came in to the room and stabbed him to death out of self-defense. So that's we want a spin-off of LA Confidential. Let's focus on that story, I say. That is...
That's better than this story, like, that's miles better.
Give us a 2-hour a 2-hour story about Johnny Stompanato. How do you pronounce that?
Stompanato.
Yeah. I've just loaded it up there because I'm sad I'll go and sit and read about that after this as well. No, that's a good one, but I like that. Daniel, you said Instagram had more comments or more remarks about this movie. What was said?
Yeah, so again, this one's quite well liked. It got quite a lot of 4s and 5s across the board. And the comments underneath it was one that, again, generally well liked. I did notice a couple of 1s in the scorings I got back from people. Again, typically, if someone doesn't like it, they give it a 1. But a couple of them sneaked in there.
Well, thanks to those that are leaving scores in the section on Instagram. We'd love to know your thoughts behind your scores. So if you can leave a little bit of commentary to go alongside it, that'd be fantastic. Now, Ben, we're going to come to you first of all for your scoring of this movie.
Sure, I'll give it 4.25.
4.25, so below Planet of the Apes for you for these movies for the last week.
Yes, it is.
Defo in there.
Must have thrown on the gorillas. I can't quite distinguish between different characters in my head sometimes. But.
Hunter?
So I'm going higher than my score for Planet of the Apes, so I'm going for 3.5 for me.
3.5. But you need to realise that 3.5 is like a hugely positive score, and you're probably thinking, God, come on, get that a little bit higher. But that's positive for us. We're generally remarked as being really negative people, so this is good.
Are you those guys on Instagram who's just sort of like, I had a beautiful meal, the atmosphere was great, but the waitress didn't smile when she gave me my pudding, so 2 out of 5. Is that?
I think that's what people think of us anyway. We are deemed as people that hate movies. I was out at the weekend with my partner and some friends, and they were mentioning that we hate movies. And it's like, oh, we've got a whole list of over 100 movies that we need to differentiate them very, very slightly. So a 3.5 is a positive. Burnsy.
I'm going to go slightly higher than Hunter. I'm going to give it a 4.
4. When you said slightly higher, I started writing a 3, thinking it would be a 3.75. So you phoned me that.
What you would have done that.
Did that just to fucking make me make an error on my bit of paper. Sean.
It's a 3.75.
3.75, and I'm going to assume Daniel's going to score this lower from his remarks.
Yeah, I was so disappointed. I'm giving it a 2.75.
A 2.75, and I'm going to bring it right back up again with a 3.5. It was better than Planet of the Apes for me this week. Now, time to pad out a little bit of time while Burnsy does the maths in there.
I'm ready.
It is interesting. Your favourite films are 90s crime films. You know, Goodfellas, Seven, Trainspotting. There's sort of that theme there. So it's good to have that. You had to review this film at some point.
If there was heroin or something,
100%.
it's a 90s film, we're all over it.
Yeah,
But I think those movies you've mentioned are a good point. Like Seven, for example, compared to this, I think Seven's light years ahead of this. The example. So just to keep that differentiation for me, I think this is good, but not anywhere near those movies.
This is good for it because if for every movie we've got like a 7 and a Goodfellas, we've also watched things like Point Break. So,
Point Break, we get a lot of shit for that because we didn't like it at all. But that was one.
Me enough. I get reminded of it on a near enough daily or weekly basis. So,
you're missing. Yeah.
Hunter was
What's Burnsy?
That's a 3.63 overall.
Well, that's high.
3.63 is high. Where do we anticipate that that's going to come in at?
Top 30.
30 odd eye.
That's what I was going to say.
So just below that, so it comes in between Uncut Gems and Halloween. So Halloween's coming in at a 3.55 and Uncut Gems is joint 31 with Mrs. Doubtfire at 3.65. So you're looking at coming in at number 33 on our list.
Pretty good going.
Which is a pretty good score, yeah, it is. So that does wrap up the 2 movies for this week, guys. So that's Planet of the Apes coming in at a 2.96, taking it to 56 on the leaderboard, and LA Confidential coming in at a 3.63, making it 33rd on our leaderboard. Before we do wrap up the stream, we are going to, however, spin the wheel so we can get the movies that are going to pop up for next week. So Ben, you'll typically see us spamming Instagram stories with all these different movies that we get people to vote on. This all comes from the magical wheel that gets to decide what we are going to be watching. So I'm just going to pop that up on the screen just now. Just bear with me.
Because I can't remember what we're even watching this coming week. I know it's the ones that were our pals. Can you remember what we've got?
Yes.
We'll come to that in a little second. The wheel is spinning right now, so let's see what it goes round for. And we've passed Burnsy's name, we've passed horror movies. We're just, absolutely gutted. I thought we were going to land on MCU there, but we actually landed on Hunter.
oh gosh,
Yes.
I see we got quite a lot of time for this.
So, Hunter, you are going to have to find 16 movies for us. Thankfully, you're off the list. I'm gutted that we missed the MCU there. I would have loved a couple of more Marvel movies.
Sorry, I've got 16 films. I can chuck a couple in if you want.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Put the Eternals in there because I've not seen that yet, and that's next on my list to see.
In fact, I'll put Shang-Chi in because that's what I've got to finish. So.
Oh, well, happy days. So, guys, Hunter will have his list drawn up in the next day or so. Daniel will pop that up onto Instagram, so if you can please interact with it. We're seeming to get over 100 votes per one that goes up at the moment as well, which is awesome, so thanks for that.
More than that, we're getting close to 200 per selection.
Awesome, excellent. Burnsy just touched on it as well. We do have movies that are coming forward for us for next week. Daniel, do you want to share with the class what they are?
Yeah, so this week, what the wheel selected for last week was Friends of the Morons. So people in our other group chats, like our fantasy football and stuff, got to pick some movies. And the final two that we're going to watch are Silence of the Lambs and The Usual Suspects, another 90s crime one just for us to add to the fucking list. So yeah, I'm very excited for Silence of the Lambs, and Usual Suspects should be quite interesting. So yeah.
Oh, happy days. So if you haven't seen those movies before, or you have seen them, like, watch them next week. Let us know your thoughts on them, and we can start talking about it in Sean's comment corner as well. Give us your thoughts, and let us know if it's going to be anything like what we talk about. I always get a little bit worried when we've got these movies that are really, really well thought after, because it's very rare that all five of us unanimously agree that we really like it. I think Parasite was one of the last times that we all agreed on it being a really good movie. So it does make me a little bit nervous. But I just wanted to finish up with saying a big thank you to Ben for joining us. That's Ben on Instagram at FunnyFilmDiary. So please pop on and give Ben a follow. I hope you enjoyed it. It's an hour and a half of your life talking about films with a bunch of morons. It doesn't sound like the most appealing thing to do on a Monday night.
I think it's been a fantastic time. Thank you for having me on. It's either that or I'm going to lecture my wife about these things, so she's very grateful to you guys. So expect donations, monetary donations coming soon. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. And I will. I'm going to watch the other 4 original Planet of the Apes franchises just to take that, guys. You know.
Yeah, man, do it.
We'll look forward to seeing your reviews of them if you pop them up onto your account. But again, thanks once again for coming on, and to the rest of you guys, to all the morons, I bid you farewell. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.